to kiss your ring now because you're sitting up here?
Yes, yes.
Oh, God. Okay. I had no idea.
I know.
Okay.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are called to nurture the spirit and to serve the community. I am Reverend Lane-Mairead Campbell, and it is my privilege and my honor to serve this congregation as your settled minister for the last 5 years. Woohoo! I use they, them pronouns. Joining me in leading worship this morning is Elizabeth Osta, using she, her pronouns, our worship associate. Joining us for music is the fabulous Dr. Brock Chesvold, our music director, using he, him pronouns, the best. We have Reverend Michelle Yates to tell our story this morning using she, her pronouns. We have Jack Cunningham using he, him pronouns on the tech deck this morning, as well as Ezekiel McGee using they, them pronouns, and Karen Labraco using she, her pronouns, both on our online ministry team. Ezekiel and Karen, thank you so much for the work that you do to make our worship services possible. Dear ones, if you are here for the first, the second, or the third time, we especially welcome you. Thank you so much for making it here to our worshiping space. If you're joining us in person, we have a visitor's form that can be filled out by scanning the QR code in your order of service or in your pews. If you're joining us online, please click the link in the chat to fill out a visitor's form so we can offer you a welcome beyond just what we can offer you in this worshiping space. We have a UU session that happens on the third Sunday of every month, which lo and behold is today. Following our service, a Q&A time to talk about what it looks like to be a part of First Universalist Church. Be back here in the back of the sanctuary and also online. Dear ones, before we take a moment to turn to our neighbors and to offer a greeting this morning, I want to just invite us to connect our two communities, to connect our online worshiping community and our in-person worshiping community. So if you're joining us here in the sanctuary, if you could take a moment to turn towards Jack and towards our green camera and offer a wave. We'll just offer a wave to our online worshiping community. We're so glad that you all are with us this morning. So glad you are here joining us. So grateful to be one whole community, both online and in person. So if you're here in the sanctuary, please rise in body or in spirit to offer your neighbor a greeting. If you're joining us online, please pop into the chat and offer a greeting this morning. Let us sing, let us sing. Sorry to call you back from your conversations. Just can't get folks to quiet down this morning. All right. So we're going to sing hymn number 3, which is a hymn that I'm going to be real, I haven't sang before. This is hymn number 3, The World Stands Out on Either Side. Since I've never sung this one before. Any show of hands, anybody here ever sung this hymn before? This is going to be totally new for us. What a delight. So Brock, would you play it once through so that we can all kind of, catch on, and then we'll sing together. All right. So Brock's going to play it for us once through. Number 3, The World Stands Out on Either Side. It's also in your gray hymnal if you'd like to follow along with the music. Beautiful lyrics. Beautifully done. Thank you, everyone. Please have a seat. Edna St. Vincent Millay. Get it, girl.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I stood in the aisle at Target, tears running down my cheeks. I felt at sea. I was looking for an urn for my sister's ashes. The sister who was 5 years older, played the piano masterfully, who loved dating and cooking, who had opinions about everything. Now she was dead. Suddenly, how did it come to this? I moved down the aisle to Home Goods. I spotted a gray vessel with a wooden lid that sealed. Just right, I thought. And it was. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The childhood words from Ash Wednesday floated in the air. At the wake, friends, neighbors, and longtime acquaintances bid adieu, remembering stories and offering comfort. We wept as dear friend Kitty sang Over the Rainbow. In the days that followed, when the time was right, we took the ashes, the improvised urn, now filled with MJ's ashes, and scattered some of them in the garden she was so proud of, and the rest in a cemetery with my mother's family. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. It's nearly 8 years since MJ's death. Sweet memories remain. The makeshift urn, now a pantry container, holds the sweetness of brown sugar, having served us well. MJ's ashes are fully mingled with the earth, now one with the soil, the fullness of life. My shamanic friend tells me of the mingling of the secular and the sacred that so eloquently accompanies death. A truth so evident if we but open our eyes to it. There is a oneness so profound and so simple. It is that oneness that helps us let go into the mystery that enfolds us. And that spirit of oneness, come, let us worship. Would Patty Goodwin come and light the chalice? Whom I forgot to ask. Those seasoned, wonderful people in this congregation that can step up. As Patty lights our chalice here at First Universalist, and you light your chalices in your own homes, will you join in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit. And may we reach out to serve our community. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in our affirmation of faith, followed by our doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life, with each other and with all. As a denomination, Unitarian Universalism provides us many opportunities to reach out beyond the divisions of ideologies to create a oneness that is sustaining. This morning, our offering will be given to the Black Lives Unitarian Universalism organization, BLUU, that is committed to expanding the power and capacity of Black UUs within the denomination, providing support, information, and resources for Black Unitarian Universalists, the justice making and liberation for Black people through Unitarian Universalism. You're invited to give online by scanning the QR code in your pews or drop an offering in the offering basket. For folks online, please click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. Thank you all for your generosity.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust are words we often hear around Ash Wednesday season. And there are many ways that you can think about this verse, but I always like to think about it as a way to remind ourselves that we are connected to everything, and everything is connected to us. And there is a wholeness in all of our beginnings and endings. Today, I want to share with you a sacred creation story about how we are all stardust. It's called The Stuff of Stars by Marion Dane Bauer, illustrated by Ayuka Holmes. And we have our pictures here as well as here. In the dark, in the dark, in the deep, deep dark, a speck floated, invisible as thought, weighty as God. There was yet no time, there was yet no space, no up, no down, no edge, no center. No earth with its soaring hawks, scuttling beetles, trees reaching for the sky. There was no sky, no you, no me, only the speck, waiting, waiting. And then the beginning of all beginnings went bang. In a trillionth of a second, the universe was born. A cloud of gas unfolded, unfurled, zigged and zagged, stretched, collided, expanded, expanded, expanded. Bits bumped, gathered, fused. And through the cosmos, stars caught fire, trillions of stars, but still no planets to attend those stars. And if no planets, then no oceans, no mountains, no hippopotami, no violets blooming in a shady wood, no crickets singing to the night, no day, no night. The stars burned, and they burned so long and so hot that some of them exploded, flinging stardust everywhere. And the ash of those dying stars gathered into planets. And the planets circled other stars. But still, no bluebirds, no butterflies, no snails, no giraffes, still no you, no me. The planets closest to their star stayed very hot, and the ones far away grew very cold. But one lucky planet, a fragile blue ball we call Earth, was neither too far nor too near. It circled its yellow star, the one we call the sun, from just the right distance, with just the right tilt to be sometimes warm and sometimes cool. Perfect for turning that starry stuff into mitochondria, jellyfish, into ferns and sharks, into daisies and galloping horses. Again and again, stardust gave birth to stardust. Dinosaurs lived and died making room for humans. Our great, great, great grandparents and all before them lived and died, making room for more and more children. Then one day, in the dark, in the dark, in the deep, deep dark, another speck floated, invisible as dreams, as special as love. Waiting, waiting, dividing, changing, growing until at last you burst into the world. You took a big breath of the same air once breathed by woolly mammoths. You cried tears that were once salty seas, your hair once the carbon in a leaf. You and the velvet moss, the caterpillars, the lions, you and the singing whale, the larks, the frogs, you and me, loving you, all of us, the stuff of stars. Stardust to stardust. Thank you.
Wow, Rev Michelle, thank you so much for that story. It's beautiful. Dear ones, I want to invite us into this time of sharing the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. If you would like to, you can place a hand over your heart to be able to listen from this heart-centered, heart-grounded place. As Elizabeth comes forward to place stones into the bowl, all are invited to share your joys and sorrows in the chat for the folks who are gathered online, and I will read aloud the joys and the sorrows of our community. This morning, we share joy from Greg Baum. In a stunning twist, after weeks of medication, the stroke center neurologist determined that I did not have a stroke. It's Bell's palsy. Greg, thinking of you, thinking of Lois, holding you both in our hearts as you continue on this journey of discovery. Oof. We share a concern, both from Elizabeth Osta and Dave Van Arsdale, a concern for son Michael and wife Jen, who have COVID. Twin boys are okay so far. Our twin children, just thinking of Michael and Jen. We share a sorrow that yesterday, a sorrow I believe from Johanna, that yesterday was my beloved son Brian's birthday. He would have been 55. Holding all who knew and loved Brian in our hearts, holding you, Johanna, in our hearts in your grief. A sorrow also from Karen Labraco. Karen's niece, Kim, was awakened early on her birthday after her water broke and went to the hospital with her husband last Saturday to deliver her second child. Unfortunately, that daughter was stillborn. I know. And our family is heartbroken and is grieving the loss of Marcella, Marie, Karen, Bernie. We're thinking of you and your niece, Kim, and this family that is just sitting with the dream of what could have been and the grief of this deep loss. We also hold a concern this morning from Lisa Barr, who needs help to find respite care for her sister, who takes care of her brother-in-law. He is a retired administrative law judge and public defender, just holding a lot right now. So we're thinking of you, Lisa, and your sister and your brother-in-law. We will drop one stone into the bowl for all the joys shared by our online community. And we'll drop a stone in the bowl to represent all of the sorrows shared by our online community. And we'll drop one final stone into the bowl to represent all of the joys and the sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. We know each and every one of us brings both joy and sorrow into this space. May all be held in the heart of love. I want to invite you now into a time of meditation and prayer. So I'll invite you to just get comfortable in your seat wherever you find yourself. Allow yourself to lean back into the pew, into the couch, into the chair. Allow your weight to be held. Take a moment to relax your shoulders down, to place your hands gently in your lap. And let us just take a breath together, in and out, to center ourselves for this time of meditation and prayer. Spirit of the cold, of the frozen, deep, dark, of the darkness where it all began. We return to you. We welcome you. Teach us about the process of freezing and thawing, the resting and restarting, the ways this earth calls us to slow down. Teach us how to meet your pace, to care for our bodies and keep ourselves warm, to appreciate the snow's fall for the gift that it is. Like the earth, the cycles of stillness, death, reawakening, and blooming is one we too experience. Let us hold stillness in this season, finding space to not rush from one thing to another. Let us hold the griefs of our hearts, the people who have died that we remember in this season, those whose deaths are fresh and still sting the heart, the loss of what once was, that comes with growth, aging, and shifts in relationship. As we sit in the stillness and in what is dying, help us to also remember that the sun will come back, that the plants will bud and blossom, that there will be green again. Help us to tune into these cycles and these seasons of the earth, that we may find ourselves back in alignment with this sustaining force that births and nourishes us all. Spirit of the cold, of the deep dark, we turn to your lessons and we turn towards you. In the name of all that is holy and sacred in our lives. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. As we take a moment in silence and stillness, let us draw inward into the inner recesses of our contemplative minds. And let us share this practice together. This morning, during our joys and sorrows, I hear just a lot of heaviness in our space. And so this morning, our hymn of contemplation sung from our seats is hymn number 279, By the Waters of Babylon. And it's a song about weeping and remembering. And so I think we should sing it twice through this morning and just make space for ourselves to sing and also for our neighbors to hear one another as we weep and remember. I'm really grateful to be here with you all this morning. It's just one of those mornings where it feels good to be together. And at the top of my remarks for this morning, I have a question for you. Have you ever been a part of a group project where your efforts to work together just didn't completely gel? Could have been at work or in school or even in your own family. That's always a fun group project. But something just isn't quite coming together. Something is a bit off. And try as you might to come to the table and get the work done, it is just hard. Maybe some folks are working a little harder than others. Some folks are stepping back. And perhaps the final end result wasn't quite what everyone had hoped, because the relationships that you all had in this group dynamic showed up in the work you all did together. I'm wondering if you have had this experience. Sounds like yes. Well, I took a class called Drama in Liturgy, and it was just that. We used to have this joke that the class was a little more drama than it was worth. The teacher was a little funky. The class was a bit inconsistent. We had a small size class to begin with, and it was a mix of the queer drama geeks. Of course, they had to be there. Those of us who were intrigued by the title, I found myself in that category, and certainly someone who had not acted nor dramatized a thing in their life before walking into that classroom. All of us were there. As things began, I thought I'd give it a chance and see what would come. as the semester progressed, things only got worse and more awkward. Wednesday evenings in that spring semester came to be evenings I was dreading and not much looking forward to. I could feel like my muscles clench up as I walked into the building. And I had my guard up the entire time we were in class. The boundary I had created for myself was one of minimal engagement and doing what I could to pass the class and move on. And then Ash Wednesday came. I was taking this class at a loosely Protestant Christian school, so it's not really your typical Ash Wednesday crowd, but the teacher suggested that we do a ritual together. We wrote on these little pieces of paper some of the things we were attempting to shed in this 40-day period, the things we wanted to release and let go of. And we took these pieces of paper and we burned them in a metal bowl. Our teacher added a couple of drops of oil to the bowl, and we all stood in a circle. Each person handing the bowl to the right and turning to one another, looking in each other's face to say, "From dust you came, and to dust you shall return." A reminder of our shared source, a reminder of the mortality that is a part of each and every one of our lives. We looked into one another's eyes, and we offered each other a blessing. And each one of us left class that evening marked, literally, by what we had done. And I will be darned, but my heart opened up just a little more in that class. I really respected the teacher for leading us through this touching ritual. I began to appreciate the overacting and the stories each one of my classmates shared in our final project, a series of one acts where each one of us told a piece of our stories. The walls I had built up had been loosened just a bit. Whereas before, they were helpful to keep me protected from boredom and awkwardness. They soon became barriers I had to lower in order to really feel connected to these people. These people whose births and deaths we had honored in this ritual. These people who were part of my life for a very brief time. So why not make the most of it? There are times when the boundaries we build around our hearts can become a prison of sorts, a cage behind which we experience life in a filtered way. There are times when we build walls around our hearts where no one can get in and where our desire to connect with others is cut off. And I think these are ripe opportunities for discernment around when to let our boundaries go. When the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for another person is to shift into a different way of being together. Death has a way of putting so much into perspective. This reminder that our time here on this earth is limited. This reminder that each one of us has the same end in store. When we are confronted with our mortality, we are able to discern what quality of life we would like to have, where we would like to spend our limited time, who we would like to be connected with. I know people who find it in themselves to put aside differences at the end of a life to be able to restore and repair relationship. And I know others for whom the death of someone they have held a strong boundary with helps to reinforce that boundary, helps to confirm that they do not want to be in contact or to interact with this loved one without set boundaries in place. Neither is wrong. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to feel affirmed in the boundaries we have already set. But how do we know? How do we know when it is time to shift boundaries? How do we know when it is time to let a boundary go? Last week, We had some time during our worship service to consider what it means to have boundaries that are both loving to me and loving to another person. And in our discernment about when to lower or shift boundaries, we must first consider whether or not this new way of relating with one another will be loving to ourselves. If we find we are just doing this for another person, that is breeding ground for feeling resentful. And then, if we've discerned that shifting the boundary is loving to ourselves, we can discern whether or not this new shift in boundaries will be loving to another person. Am I playing into a dynamic that could be unhealthy for them? Am I building up an expectation that is not loving to the other person nor to myself? I know there are moments when the most loving thing to do is to shift boundaries. Not just in a class that I was in where things went wrong, but in many of the friendships that I've had and maintained over the course of time, and many of the loving relationships that I've had with family and with friends. Sometimes the best and most loving thing we know to be loving to ourselves and to another is to reestablish contact after a period of being away from each other. Sometimes we can choose to engage with people in a different way than we had before. We can find that a boundary we had in place blocks us from receiving the love and care we seek with others. Sometimes what we needed at one time is no longer needed because people have changed and grown, and a new relationship is possible where one was not possible before. This is not easy work. To shift boundaries, to change boundaries with someone else, this is not easy work. And I am not saying that all requests to shift a boundary need to be met with a yes this morning. This is the difficult stuff of human relationship. To approach someone to repair relationship or to be back in contact after a period of no contact is extremely brave and hard. We risk rejection. We risk being called on things we might have done to cause harm to another. But I have to say this morning, it is also some of the most courageous work. It is fertile ground for a more honest and authentic relationship to continue into the future. It is possible to give a relationship another chance. And it is especially necessary when it feels like our connection with another person is vital to our well-being and our healing, or just our path towards being at peace with ourselves. Two years after this ritual space was created in this funky class I was taking, I'm working with families in a hospital. A couple of days before Ash Wednesday, a child is rushed into the emergency room who is very young and lives with many chronic health issues. I go to visit the family on Ash Wednesday. They are Catholic, maybe not who they expected to show up, but I distributed the ashes to Mom. Dad is in the corner attempting to get some sleep. I offer the ashes to the child, and the mother agrees. I brush the ashes over their warm forehead as the machines around them, keeping them alive, softly beep. From dust you came, and to dust you shall return. And it is clearly hard for Mom to witness this ritual. She says softly, "It's too soon." And we know together it is way too soon for this child to die. It is way too soon for this life to return to the dust from whence it came, and that sometimes what happens too soon is what is going to happen. I wonder often if this ritual helped to open her heart to this possibility. or if the ritual was a reminder of a reality she did not want to and should not have to face. To be reminded of our mortality as adults is a completely different thing than the reminder of the mortality of a young one you have spent so much time and energy nurturing and keeping alive. The life of a little one is still hopeful, still a dream and a vision it is hard to let go of. And I wonder often where this family is now. Today, I wonder what boundaries they have had to traverse as they went through the devastating loss of a child too soon. I wonder where walls went up after enduring something so tough together. And I wonder what has had to change and shift in both of their lives to continue experiencing love within themselves and love in relationship. What I know is that death and the reminder of one's own death can serve as a stark mirror about how we want to spend our time and who we want to spend it with. Those of us here who have known untimely deaths of loved ones have likely experienced the deepest grief and the need for care from others. Those of us who have had brushes with death in our own lives know the fragility of this human life and the need to savor it as much as we can. Let the boundaries that no longer serve you in this life melt away. Let the boundaries that keep love alive in your days remain. Let us be grateful each day for the life we are living, while also remaining reminded that our time here on this earth is limited. And may we remember this week that each of us is from dust, the stuff of stars, and to dust we shall return. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. This morning, we sing of love to close our service, recognizing there is more love somewhere and more love right here. But let us rise in body or in spirit to sing hymn number 95. There is more love somewhere. Dear ones, let us extinguish our chalice flame, both here at First Universalist and in your own homes, as we read together these unison words. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. Dear ones, I'm going to invite you to place a hand over your heart from wherever you are, wherever you find yourself, whether here at First Universalist or online. I'm just going to invite you to take a moment to take a look around the room. Take a look at who is with you along this journey. Who are your companions along this life's journey? If you're joining us online, please shift your view to gallery view so you can take a look upon one another's faces and so we can see you too. Oh, dear ones, we are on this path of life together. May we be reminded this week of our own births, our own ends, of what is truly important to us: love, hope, joy, connection. May you know here in your heart that you are loved. And may you go and be that love to whomever you meet. Amen. Blessed be. May it be so.